Welcome. This is a series on Roman religions. This is part 2, how religion affected the daily life of Roman citizens in the Imperial Rome, that is from 50 to 100 CE or Christian era. Well, let's begin. Remember that the Romans are struggling with purity and pollution, family honor, patronage, and trying to figure out where the gods fit. And they fit in many places. The Romans like to put them in a clean box. The ancient religions across all of the Middle East and even into Europe and Asia focused on food, stability, and peace. The gods ensured a good harvest. They protected animals. They protected the human beings. They especially were interested in the sky gods that gave thunder and rain, and the earth goddess that bring the fertile earth. The rituals often tried to influence the gods, to mimic a sky-earth interaction so the rain would fall and the earth would grow great crops. They also looked to learn the future from the gods in omens and dreams, and avoid things that displeased gods because that would cause it. Now again, this is man fearing that God has all the manipulation and the strings, and instead man is trying to manipulate them with clear rituals. Now, religion in the first century was integral to the identity of a people. It wasn't separate from a people's identity as we may think in 21st century America. The gods of a nation defended the nation, ensuring peace, stability, food, and wealth, and participation in religious rituals in family meetings, social gatherings, civic gatherings, part of supporting the state and being patriotic. The gods were seen as the ultimate patrons. The public sacrifices ensured a god's continued support for the people, and the priests acts as brokers or mediators in a patronage system. Now, rituals were to influence the god. In early Rome, the key gods were the gods of the household. Janus for the lifeblood of the families, Penetes for the embodiment of the storehouse, Vesta for the spirit of the hearth. And you notice that their temples are rounded like a fire ring, and the cult was attended by virgins, home keeping the fire. Lara was the luck of the family, and the ancestors were a powerful force. Now, in the pater families that had a male head, he was also in charge of the rituals of the family. The Roman's house is his temple, and a conscientious citizen worships daily rituals. At dawn, the master of the house invokes the family's protective god, burns incense on the Lars hearth. The master greets Lars when crossing the threshold. At dusk, the woman's sweetheart puts embers under ash and turns on the light to give a good respect to Lars. Meals had a mola salsa, roasted flour with a bit of salt, and a piece of meat was put on a ritual dish of patella and before it was thrown in the hearth. The salt was sacred and sanctified the table. It was interesting that army generals took the patella dish and the thallium salt to campaigns on war. Now, the Roman had gods that took care of them from cradle to grave. In the birth, you have Janus, who took care of the marriage union to create the child. In the child and the woman, you had Florta to nourish in the womb, Nona and Dessa to bring the child forth at the 9th month, Prospera and Prosa to avoid a breech birth, Parsa to preside over the birth, Lucino, which is a form of Juno, the female god, to go with Juniper for gentle delivery. And after birth, the Juno aided the nursing mother as the major female goddess. In the purification, Nudinda presided over the purification on the 8th day for girls and the 9th day for boys, and the early walking was Adona and about. Well, you had to know who the Roman gods were and how to placate them. Death is the same way. Sight was extinguished by Caletus, soul was separated by Vititus. When they prepared the person, perhaps making something like you see in this picture, death mask out of wax, Charlon's abo was, or a coin was put in the mouth to pay for crossing the river Styx to the afterlife. They had a procession to the funeral pyre as a religious ceremony. They buried the person outside of the Roman city, per the 12 tablets of Rome, and they purified the family afterwards. Just such as a cow was sacrificed or a ram was sacrificed to the family law, the luck. Notice that luck actually is still something that people try to manipulate today. The Roman meal was a pretty common one with eggs, broad beans, lentils, poultry, and at the ninth day after the funeral, Manus was offered a sacrifice libation of wine. These domestic ceremonies also had a monthly thing. Monthly, the mistress hung garlands of flowers around the family hearth at the calends, which is the new moon, or the nonce, or the ides. In the first of the month, they offered grapes, cakes, and honeycombs, and pressed a wreath of ears of corn. Janus guided men. On the birthdays, it was celebrated to have garlands of flowers and cake offered by a male celebrating the birth to Janus. Juno was in charge of the women. The birthdays also had cakes, this boiled salted wheat and wine. And the ancestors were celebrated on the anniversary of their death. Now, that just shows you how chock-filled with religious overtones and rituals the Romans' home life was. Next presentation, we'll look at the gods of Rome itself as a city and the Roman country estates. Well, thank you for listening.